I hear about this in a lot of states. I know Colorado's very big on this. When like you put up a new building for commercial stuff, you have to dedicate a certain percentage of your build to doing something to better the culture, right? So whether you put up a statue or do a nice piece of art in the foyer or something like that.
Okay, Jess Hurley Scott, I'm excited to have you in.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think you do some interesting pieces. Currently, you got some stuff hanging in Christina's gallery in Norwell, Savage Godfrey Gallery.
Yes.
Part of the Summer Days
yes.
show.
With Jen Kelly and John Vinton. So it's the three of us.
Okay, I'm familiar with Jen, and I saw Christina picked out some of the ones that are like multiple like people.
Yes.
And then the other artist is?
John Vinton. He does these beautiful, very textural abstracts of seascapes. At least this series is seascapes. But
nice.
Beautiful.
So kind of three different styles.
Yeah. So it's really fun because it's a lovely summer show. Like it has a lot of summer vibes, but also we have such different approaches to that subject. So, I have a very kind of photorealistic or like at least realistic based process. John is super abstracted, and then Jen has a much more like narrative kind of fun approach to the subject matter. So it's a fun way to like kind of take a look at summer in different ways.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and your process is obviously a little bit different.
Yeah.
I think of it, so kind of photorealism type painting, but mixed with like almost a sculptural type of element.
Yes, totally. They're kind of 3D paintings. Sometimes they call them dioramic paintings.
I noticed that on think of those old dioramic like the shoe boxes, right?
Totally. So I kind of think of them more as staging because there's 3 separate layers and there's a space between each layer. So there's a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. And with that, they kind of have this dimension when you look at them. Sometimes it's hard to show it over photographs, but I do really think of them when I'm building them sculpturally. Like, what do I want to come forward? What do I want to sit further back? And also how I approach the painting of it.
And you've been doing, I feel like you've been at this
over
form of painting for a while.
Yeah,
it's
been a long time.
I'm aging myself too, thinking about that.
Same. You're like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, no, it's been over 20 years.
So is this so now like the process is kind of nailed down, like the spacing and
yes. So
do you always use 3 layers?
I do, with this setup, I always use 3 layers. I've been branching out into some new setups and some different framing in the last year or so, which has been really exciting. But this traditional way of framing, where it's all encased in acrylic, is all a routed framing system. So so it's all like everything's painted on the inside. It's all painted in reverse. So the image is actually a mirror image of what I'm working on, and so there's no paint on the surface, and it's all inside, all 3 layers. So then it's kind of housed in its own box. So it's really like, it's almost like a specimen case.
Yep. Yeah, no, they're super interesting. And how did you what inspired you 20 years ago
right?
To start trying to do that?
Well, I was living in New York City,
and
I worked as a product designer for like home products at Tommy Hilfiger. And I was doing night classes, just painting classes at the Art Students League. And there was, it was just like a live model nude painting class. And the professor, it wasn't really a professor, it was just the kind of moderator, came up and was like, so you're obviously competent in painting people, but you obviously hate it. And I was like, excuse me? And I had gone to art school, but like I was just doing this for fun at night. And he's like, what do you like painting? And I was like, well, I like painting like landscapes and seascapes and stuff. I live in New York City. And so he's like, well, what do you work from? And I was like, images, photographs. He goes, well, so do I. So just like bring in, I want to see some of your stuff that you want to paint. And I was like, oh, I wasn't in it for a critique. This was like a burn off some steam after work thing. So it took me a couple weeks. And meanwhile, at home, I had been playing with painting on like a single layer of glass and then backlighting a piece of glass. And I think I worked all day long on like Adobe, like Photoshop and Illustrator, and I was working in layers. I went to school as a surface pattern design major, actually the same as Kelly Broderick, and at the same program. We were a year apart. We didn't know each other.
No kidding.
Yeah, so funny.
Small world.
Yeah, at Syracuse. So, but my major was separating images into screens and creating repeats. So I think I was always working in layers, and so that kind of maybe subconsciously was part of it, but I loved how bright and intense backlit images on a screen would be.
Yep.
And I was like, how do I translate that into painting? And I was like, I mean, I could paint in oils, but it didn't feel like me. It felt like I was painting from somebody else's time or somebody else's place. And I was like, well, what would feel more me? And I was like, this is what I do all day long.
Yep.
So I started painting on glass in reverse because I'd done some like mono prints. And like when you put the paint down, it looks so different than when you press it to the paper.
Yep.
And I kind of liked it before it hit the paper.
Yep.
So I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just leave it.
Yep.
And so I did a few of those studies, brought them in, and the guy's like, whatever this is, like these glass things, like keep doing that. That's different. And I think it was the first time I took it seriously, and it wasn't just like, oh, this is just a joke, like this is just something to play with. And I kind of gave myself permission to kind of explore it.
Yep.
So after that, I was working as a hardlines product developer. I was like doing bath accessories and picture frames and furniture and stuff like that. So it wasn't that hard for me, like, oh, I'll just find an acrylic vendor and I'll just like come up with some, you know, framing things for them to router out for me and use a CNC machine. Like I was comfortable with that.
Yeah.
So it was probably a 2-year process from when I first started playing to building the first like finished one.
Was there a lot of, a lot of experimenting going into figuring out the overall depth and then figuring out how far to space things apart?
I used different thicknesses. I was using like different spacing. How do I want it framed? And then, but in the end, it's kind of like little spacers that you would use probably to do a shadow box.
Yeah.
But it was mentally like, how do I get my head around it? I was thinking of them in wood at first as framing, but then I wanted the light coming through it. So that shifted me towards acrylic. I tried to do it in glass. It was too fragile to get too heavy when you wanted to go bigger. And I wanted that space and to have that. I don't know if you're familiar with like Dustin Yellen. He does these like incredible collages. He's a very big painter down in New York City. But he's got all these like layers of glass, and he does collage between layers of glass, but they're like 50 layers. And so these things are like tons. And I was like, that wouldn't be feasible for me. So I was trying to come up with like a different process, and yes, working with all the technicals, it took some time. And then I also learned what this process is limited in, until like you have to, after you go over a certain size, you know, the acrylic, you have to make it thicker so it doesn't start bowing. Or like, you know, in a canvas, you put a space bar behind it to like re-support that. You can't do that in a clear piece. So how do you get around that? So a lot of times when I would go big, it was diptychs or triptychs. But now, so then I've been working on how to scale it up. And that's what I've been doing lately.
So what do you just change to like from an 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch piece of plexi? Or
so in these pieces, there's like...
that must add some weight to it too,
right?
And
it does. They get much heavier. So at some point, I mean, I could go 1/2 inch acrylic layers, but then the thing's going to need like a reinforced wall to put it into, because you don't want like a 200-pound piece falling off. So I'm actually working on a whole new system of framing that's... it's been really exciting. I started it last year when I was at a residency in Newfoundland. But it's on a bracket, and they're hanging sheets. So I'm letting gravity help keep the bowing from being an issue, but also they're open. They're not tightly framed. They hang. So it's almost like sheets of plexiglass hanging.
Now, did you discover somebody else doing similar things? Is there like
No.
did you just
Well, I mean, I've
and-
looked at other. Actually, I was looking at a lot of textile artists. Like, how do
Yep.
they hang their pieces?
Okay. Yep.
So I was and knowing that people are hanging these things that can bow, right?
Yep.
And how are they getting around that? And how are other spaces showing them? Like, what would like institutions? How do they show them? How to how would you install this
Yep.
in like a residential space or a commercial space? Like, what's feasible? Because I want to be able to share it.
Yeah.
So
you want to be able to share it,
yeah.
sell it, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but like also like how, it looks great in my living room, but like where else can I put it?
Yep.
And simultaneously I was working on the project for Boston. So I was like really trying to stretch in terms of how to like get this bigger.
Yep.
And get over some hurdles. So and I was able to, again, I think I leaned on some of my old background of being a home product developer, and
Yep.
I worked with a lot of, frankly, curtains
Yeah.
and bracketing for like how to do curtain rods and stuff like that. I worked for an interior designer for a while, so I was kind of familiar with some of the hardware.
Yep.
And so I just designed my own acrylic brackets, and so I have them routed out, and then I do the sheets now. And so the whole thing, there's no metal, there's no hardware except for the screws that go on the wall, but you can't see them because they're hidden.
Yeah, it must be interesting trying to like go into, I mean, obviously you must go into like museums and other places and see, be looking at them like, how's this gonna, how could I make?
I
that
find
work?
it's so easy to see the artists in a museum.
Yeah.
Because they're always like kicking the tires. They're always like looking behind the back and seeing how it's like. They're always like looking for how it's made.
Yeah.
Versus like I've seen memes where people are like, oh, the art appreciator is standing 10 feet back from the piece.
Yep.
The artist is like nose to the canvas, like trying to figure it out.
What about the guy that's looking at the frames?
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
You qualify. So yeah, it's like the makers are always trying to like
take something else,
take something
something
apart.
different away from it. Yeah, that's so. Is there? I mean, I know people that use different surfaces to paint on, and I have one a customer, Susan Lefevre, who paints on plexiglass a lot. And it's interesting because sometimes, her work is very abstract. So sometimes we're looking at like what color to put behind it. And sometimes it's even like which side's going to be facing out or facing in because of the things that the light does and like the background does to it.
Well, when you have a translucent piece, light is everything.
Yep.
I talk about people when they're collecting my pieces, I'm like, you need a good light. If you're seeing it in a good light, you're going to need to replicate a good light because they catch so much ambient light that you get a lot of glare because there's no paint on the surface.
Yeah. Have you thought about using like a non-reflective plexiglass at all, or experimented with that?
So I have experimented a little bit.
But that has a different texture, right?
It also, if you put a space between it, it creates a fogged look. I've actually used it to my advantage when I've wanted like a mist or a fog in a piece, and I've actually used it on purpose. But it does haze as you pull it away from the artwork. So in this, unless I want a haze to it, it's not going to work. And especially on the face, usually like that's where, everything I want in the foreground has to be like the sparkle and what comes at you, right? And then the color is usually, most of the color is in the second or the third layer, like that's kind of building up. And if I had that on the first layer, which would, dull the reflection, you'd lose all the, you'd lose all the intensity of the color. So.
And is the back piece, is that always?
It's just clear.
Clear, that's just always left.
Yeah, it's just a clear back, and that's where I have.
Because that's
like
already
my hanging
attached.
system.
That's already attached to the other pieces.
So it's all. I don't even use glues. It's all solvents. So it's all fused. So like they call it welding because it literally melts the edges of the plastic together.
So is there other people that are painting in this style, or do you think you have?
I have not met somebody who does exactly what I do. I have seen other people painting in layers.
Yep.
Sometimes it's film, sometimes it's acrylic.
Yep.
But I've never seen anybody doing exactly this.
Yeah, the type of box.
Or the brackets that I've just done. Like that's kind of different.
Yep.
But but it was never about like, oh, I like that and trying to emulate a style. It was just more like I just was kind of like, I want to make this, and how do I make it? So sometimes I'd look to people to be like, oh, I actually reached out to an artist in Vancouver last year when I was trying to go big, and he was working in films, and he does these very abstract, like monumental stuff. David Spriggs, and he's like, he does stunning work. But he does, I think it's like 20 layers, and he does them on this like hanging system that it's all like grommeted.
Yep.
And sometimes he uses rods, other times they're hung from little cables. So these are like big corporate and museum installations.
So those are mainly in like institutions.
Yeah, but when I was
museums.
looking to do the brackets, I'm like, what kind of substrate are you using? Do you have any recommendations? Like, I'm not trying to emulate you, but I'm looking for some solutions. And he was really sweet. He actually wrote me back, and he was really kind. But like what I was trying to do was a little different. So, I was kind of bumping my head a little bit along the way, but I figured out like a way to back it, that it's all still acrylic.
Yeah. Do you ever think about teaching that sort of thing? Or
it's funny, I am actually going to be teaching at South Shore Art Center this fall.
Nice.
I'm going to do a workshop that's going to be about water painting, but it's not going to be this process.
Yep.
I'm doing one workshop on water and light and reflection, and using light in water and how to paint it. And then I'm going to do another workshop on painting a wave and getting that volume. And painting water can be really tricky for people, and I've been doing it for so many years that like that doesn't matter, right? Like that's more of a technical how to build a water painting. It's how I do it is different.
Yep.
But to me, that's like painting watercolor versus painting oils. Like it's just, that's more technique stuff.
Yep. The water translates really well to this style. You were showing me some pictures earlier, the florals as well. Those are in the space in Arcadia. You said
it's in up in Acadia National Park.
Okay.
So Mount Desert Island.
Okay.
And so it's at Rusticator, which there's a wonderful interior designer here in Boston, Keeler and Company, Laura Peirce, and she opened a shop up there with her husband Vassar, and they do all this gorgeous interior stuff. And I'd actually been working with her with like consignment stuff for years. So when she opened the shop about 6 years ago, I do little miniature pieces, and Powell Art Advisory does all the walls, and then I do these little miniatures for around the space, because they can like sit on shelves and they can sit on tables, so they don't need to be wall hung. So I've been doing those for her for years, and I did a whole series this summer on botanicals, and so it's all these little floral studies. A lot of them are from all the botanical gardens up in Acadia National Park, like all the Rockefeller Garden properties. So,
and that's I'm gonna have to take a peek at one of those in person just to see the difference. Yeah,
it's different. I think when because I do a lot of forest scenes and stuff, especially when I'm doing stuff in Maine, because I shoot so much up there. I go up every season and shoot more stuff, and some of them are a mix of water and trees or whatnot. But the forest scenes, it's a lot more about the depth, because they're so opaque that. And I think it's that feeling of when you're in the woods and you can't quite see, like your vision is obscured by everything, all the layering of the trees and the branches and whatnot. And that I think is more, and the light filtering through that. And I think that's more what I'm focused on when I do those pieces. Whereas this is the translucency and sometimes what's obscured through the layers and how they can be distorted, like what's underneath, like the first layer of water, and you see reflection and refraction, and then as you look deeper into the water, like, or look past some of the initial reflection, what's underneath it.
And the clouds are I'm examining too.
Yeah.
So the clouds are on the they're all on the second layer. And
Yes. So in this piece, so
is that to bring the water more
yes.
forward?
So a lot of the reflections and whatnot are on the first layer, and then how I actually paint. So I have dyslexia, so it's no problem for me to paint backwards.
No.
And
using
also,
it to your advantage.
Yes.
Turn it into a superpower, right?
Totally. So because some people I don't know how your brain and then you paint it and you flip it, and I'm like, what? Doesn't everybody do that?
Think that way. Yeah.
But so I start usually with the top layer, which is backwards for an artist, and then I paint the background second, and then the middle layer is third, because that's where I can really push and pull the contrast and the color. So I am figuring out what I want to come at me first, and then I paint. Then I block in the background and see how that's setting up with it, and then last is where I'm like, okay, what do I need to still come forward more? What needs to set back further? Or I've already decided, for instance, the sky. I'd put in the general sky, but then yes, all the wispiness and the clouds and stuff are in the second layer because I wanted them to come. I wanted you to kind of feel that volume.
Yep.
Versus them feeling sometimes you look at a sky and it feels so far away. The clouds feel so high up and they're so far away, and they just kind of become a blanket. And then other times you feel like they're right there. And so this one was kind of one of those where I wanted it to feel just as close as the horizon line.
It's interesting. The process must be. I mean, are you sliding things in and out?
All the time. I'm constantly flipping stuff around. Yeah. Because I start with a template just so I can line up what I want on each layer. Similar to a lot of painters who will draw in the sketch on a grid, just block it out. So I use the template and put the paintings on that, or the panels on that at first. But then I need to move it immediately to the easel, and everything's painted on the easel because I need to start working with what the actual background color is. So it's almost when you're working on a colored paper or something like that, it can affect what your line work looks like. And because so much of it is translucent, I might be putting in a blue, but if it's going on a blue background, it almost fades to nothing.
Does that now when you're if you're doing you're commissioned to do a really large piece, is the lighting thing, is that a major issue? I mean, is it hard to work on a study something small and then to then expand it to without the light really throwing a wrench into, because I'm assuming that a little bit of paint on a small piece is going to feel a little bit different than a little bit of paint on a really large piece because of all the lighting around it.
That's a good point. So when I do the miniatures that I do for Maine, they're really tight and they have a lot of detail into a 5x7 or a 5x13. But when I do larger pieces, they're much more painterly. And part of that is I feel like I can convey the same vision, and because usually a large piece you're standing back from a lot further. So, but I love that painterly quality. But I feel like in a small piece, I think they do different things. A little piece is a specimen, right? It's you go to a curiosity shop and there's something under glass. That's that kind of vibe I have when I make these little miniatures. So they're less studies, but they're just very, very precious little guys. But then when the big ones, I want that volume and I want that movement. And so sometimes more expressive marks help generate that too. And it's a little more freeing. But in terms of the light, I think light will always, light affects them pretty similarly because I don't change the spacing.
Okay.
Even as I get bigger. And so that's less of a challenge to have to scale up every single time I'm doing it. So, because that's at least consistent. But how I light it and how you place lighting can get a little tricky, just like when you have a spotlight and it's going to reflect, like how do you light? But it's like lighting anything that has glass, right? And a good strong spot on a piece of artwork always makes it pop. So it's, to me, the easiest way to equate it is like working with a stained glass window. If you don't light it, the colors are dead. A lot of this piece is about translucent color, and it's pretty much like colored glass. So if you use a good light on it, the color will pop. If you don't, it's not gonna react the same as like an oil or acrylic that can kind of live a little bit more with just that pigment.
Is it make a difference if it's lit from the front or from the back too, or you try to get your patrons to kind of
so they're not meant to be lit from the back.
Okay, no,
not these. So there is so this past year or this spring I did the Logan Airport piece. So that is a backlit piece, and people look at these and they're like, oh, it's like a stained glass window, you light it from the back. But truly, you have to use a whole different set. It's like painting an oil versus painting a watercolor. When you do a backlit piece, the brightest colors are like working with a white piece of paper with a watercolor. It's in the back. And that's your lighting. You're not going to get any brighter than your background. And then you have to use translucent colors because, so for instance, like on this piece, there's all this white, reflection. That's an opaque color. If you put a light behind it, it'll turn black. So you actually, if you want white, you need to leave it blank and backlight it.
Gotcha.
So it's like, when you're painting with watercolor, you don't put color down. You leave your white voids, and that's the brightest part of your piece. So you have to think of it that way. And so when Logan Airport, that was probably like a year and a half from start to finish when we first started talking about it, and it kept changing. But how that came about was I was approached by this company. It's not Massport directly, but they are leased through Massport. They have a shop at, and they were redoing this space in Terminal A for the Delta Terminal, and they wanted to do an art piece for their new renovation. And so they talked to me about it. They liked the layers. They wanted to do something very Boston-centric. The space was called The Shops at Boston Commons. So I was like, okay, cool. And so we first started talking about doing a large piece. They wanted something really big, but with standoffs, because remember I was talking about the bowing. So like just doing bolts right along the edges, or maybe doing a series of smaller pieces and doing them on standoffs. But then we came to find out that the airport won't allow anything to protrude off a wall even a quarter of an inch.
Really?
Yeah, because they don't want people catching it.
That
hitting it with their bags,
Yep.
like whatever. People are kind of rough in airports.
We're working on a similar project. I'll show you some pictures afterwards at the rink, and that was one of the things. We wanted to make sure that everything starts like above shoulder high, because kids with bags walking
just
by and
clip
hockey
it.
sticks,
rip it off, or damage themselves.
Yeah, exactly. There's that issue too. Right?
There's that. But yeah, so then all of a sudden it was like, oh, how do we do this? And then it was like, all right, well, now it has to be recessed into the wall. And as I said, like these are clear frames. And this is why we haven't been able to work as much together. Because I need the light to go through to help. It actually, there's like a whole inch behind the last layer, and the light gets through and helps kind of bounce through it and just kind of helps illuminate the whole piece. Now, if we're recessing it into the wall, I'm like, it's going to be so dark. You won't get any light in this piece. So we're like, okay, well, and because it was 6 feet tall and 4 feet wide. So when you have that large a piece, just doing a rim of LED was not going to be enough. You'd have a dark spot in the middle of the painting. So then it was like, okay, this has to be a fully backlit. And then they were like, okay, well, we're competing with big LED signs all over the place, like signage all over the airport. So it's got to be bright. So I'm like, okay. So we worked with the signage guy, but I had to kind of reteach myself how to paint. So I literally was painting it like a stained glass window, but it was in 2 layers. So it was like a dimensional stained glass window. So yes, it was.
Had you done like work in stained glass too?
No. I mean, I've worked in glass a little bit just because I've been so interested in this.
Yep.
So I've done some fusing and a little bit of torch work, but I've never done stained glass. I actually wanted to, and then I used to go to like Diabolo. Do you remember that place? It was up in Roxbury.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
But they closed during the pandemic, and like there's not. I think there's a place down in Providence, but like there's not a lot of places that I haven't looked that hard, but like there's not like a local place that like, oh yeah, I can go do stained glass and try it out. But anyway, I had to kind of reteach myself how to paint in this way because again, it was like your brightest thing is the light box. And then you have to not only think of where you want your colors to be brightest, where you want things to fall back. But in dimension, like I needed to still pull out my highlights and make them believable and yet like not obscure it. So everything was done in really, really light glazes to help me build it. What
was the installation process like? Did you have a installer that you knew you had a relationship with for doing that, or?
No, these were okay. So the company, it's Newslink. So it's like, kind of like Hudson News, Newslink. They do all the shops in all the airports, right? They work with a signage company that's actually based out of Nova Scotia, and they build all the signs for the whole build out. And so we talked to them. So these guys were like, professional sign builders, LED people. So, but they hadn't worked with paintings. But they were great because they're like, okay, give us the dimensions of the box. We'll build the aluminum frame, and then we'll do the spacers in between. And you could just kind of, and they actually cut me the acrylic sheets and sent them from Nova Scotia to me, so they fit exactly in the box. So that part was great. Of course, the box was like tiny bit warped when the guys actually in Boston installed it. So it was like, oh, are we going to get it in like install day? But they had, it was union guys like coming in with their hard hats like, okay, we'll put one sheet in, we'll put the next sheet in. But it was only 2 layers. Partly because of the weight of it, because this was full 1/4-inch sheets. So when I was flipping these things in the studio, they were heavy.
Yeah, that's when you need an assistant, right?
Yeah, right. I was like, I need a minion because they were. Yeah, it's like a 4x6 sheet of acrylic that's still moving on me too. But they're heavy, and so it wasn't I wasn't as nimble in the studio. I had to like kind of plan things a little bit more. Also, because I only have like 7.5-foot ceilings, so I was like sitting on the floor painting a lot because I just had to work with what I had. But yeah, these guys, they also created like a guard sheet that would go over the face of it. So in case somebody did come by and scratch it with their bag or whatever, it would be fine.
So, are you getting a lot of like feedback or like inquiries because of the piece hanging at the airport?
Yeah, I mean
airports seem to do a very, like whenever I'm traveling, you notice a lot of art in the airports. It seems to be a big thing.
Yeah, I think it is. I do love that the state requires a lot of people. I mean, like I hear about this in a lot of states. I know Colorado's very big on this. When like you do, you put up a new building for commercial stuff, you have to dedicate a certain percentage of your build to doing something to better the culture, right? So whether you put up a statue or do a nice piece of art in the foyer or something like that, there's a certain amount of your budget has to be dedicated to going back to like a cultural commitment. So I think that's where they were like, we need a local artist. We want a local artist in the Massachusetts area. And the company is based in Miami. So it was actually like it was great. We just had like I sent my stuff to them and they were like, oh, we can work with this. And of course, like it changed, right? But I was like, all right, well, we can just make it work. And I think, again, I had such a background in product development that I was like, okay, it's problem solving. We just have to figure out how to do it this way. So it was 7 weeks of painting it straight. But it's tough to like, I can't send people to go see it unless they have a boarding pass. So like you got to fly Delta to go see the painting. But it's so cute. I get like 5:30 in the morning, I get random text messages of like people's kids like standing out in front of it like, hey, we found your mural.
Yeah.
So it's been awesome. But even more exciting is since I figured this out and like how to paint it, and I've gone through this whole process, I'm doing a show at the Art Complex Museum in Duxbury, and that'll be it seems far away, but it'll be here before you know it. But it's the beginning of 2027.
Yep.
And I'm going to do some light boxes for that show.
And Craig's amazing at like installing stuff.
Yeah.
So I imagine that there must be like a really like a great opportunity to collaborate with some.
He's like, I'm in for it. Like, let's do it. And I'm like, oh, he's such a great collaborator for that. Mm-hmm. So I'm so excited to be showing in that space too. Yeah. That building is like such an architectural jewel.
No, it is.
And
it's amazing.
It's just such a special place, and to have that lobby with that cool ceiling and wall of like, I think the work will just be so. I can't wait to integrate it into that space.
So will there be some a little bit of experimenting and figuring out, trying some new things?
Yeah.
Because
so
of that?
Boston was a permanent, I mean, that thing they said, minimum it's going to be here 12 years. It was built to be a permanent installation. The museum show is going to be built to be a temporary installation, right? So that's only supposed to be there 3 months. Mm-hmm. And the idea is I'm hoping to then move it to other places to show the work or sell the work or whatnot. So I am now having to fabricate a light box frame system that I can do this and be able to just hang it, plug it in, and then move it on to the next space. Yep. So that has been a new set of challenges, and I'm still working out a little bit of the framing so I can get started. But I do want to do a series of 3 to 5 of them, depending. But they'll probably be more like 2 by 4 feet. Mm-hmm. So they'll be not on the same scale as Boston, but the idea is they would kind of work together. So I do multiple pieces.
So you have a whole plan for that, for subject matter and how many pieces, or you have still in the process of figuring that out?
I'm still hammering out the light box framing system. Mm-hmm. So once I have that, I can kind of finalize. But it's going to be a collection of things. It's going to be water. It's going to be botanicals. It's going to kind of be like a range of those. It's called This Place, This Hour is going to be the name of the show. Mm-hmm. And the whole idea is it's kind of us witnessing nature. Like, why do we take pictures every time we go on vacation to places? We see a beautiful sunset. People always pull out the camera, right? Yep. So it's almost like we're wanting to document our moment there. Mm-hmm. And our compulsion to do that, like it's our wanting to be there in that moment and remembering that moment, and as I said, being a witness. Yep. So I that's kind of the start of the show, and just how much we are really connected to nature in all, whatever your favorite is. Like, some people love being at the beach and it's their solace. Other people love being in the woods, right? Yep. Like, and everybody has their reasons for that, but a lot of people find a lot of spirituality in it, but it's more like a personal spirituality. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's kind of the genesis of the show. Yeah.
Will you lean on Christina for some help in trying to transport the show from one spot to another?
Well, she and I have been talking about like some connections, different places. Like, where do you know anybody we could show it to next and whatnot? And I've got a bunch of different people who are helping me in different spots.
Putting proposals together to hit the
right. So and I've got like I have a friend who's down in Columbus, Ohio, and she's worked with the gallery that I work with in New York, and they and she's helping me. Like, I'm putting together a catalog to then help move it around. So hopefully I can once it leaves Duxbury, I can take it a few other places to share it. So
hopefully that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thrilled you came in. Thrilled you telling us a little bit of the process.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I think the people can find out about the classes at South Shore.
So that'll be this fall.
This fall.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
But yeah, so I'll do it. I think I'm doing an intro to painting course too, but that'll be a lot of color work.
Awesome.
So that'll be like a weekly class. But.
And you have pretty consistent updates on your social media
I'm
and
usually
your website.
Posting. My website I'm less good at, but it's due for a little bit of a refresh. But I feel like that's everybody's MO, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so but Instagram and Facebook, I'm frequently forwarding stuff that I'm up to.
Nice. And Christina's will be up for another.
End of August.
End of August.
So it's up for the rest of the summer.
Nice. And then we'll be on to Duxbury.
Yeah.
So,
A lot of little things in between, but yes, that's the big show coming up. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing them and look forward to getting over to Christina's and definitely look forward to seeing your pieces in Duxbury. That's going to be something to.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me.
We'll do our best to promote it.
You guys do so much here for the whole artist community. I mean, we don't even frame together that much.
Yeah, but art's art.
You have helped me with like some wacky projects, but yeah, it's wonderful with the community that you build here. So it's awesome.
I mean, we don't discriminate.
Yeah.
Frames are unframed.
And I'm proof.
I actually just judged a show at the South Shore yesterday, and I was,
nice.
I gave out a lot of things that didn't have our frames or didn't even have frames at all. There was a few that that I think a framing might have changed it, but we're not.
I mean, I have notes, but it's fine.
we want art to be seen in the community, whether it's got our frame on it, no frame on it, or frame from somebody else, as long as it's done well. And I think you do a great job with your stuff. So
thank you very much, and thanks for everything you do on behalf of all of us.
my pleasure. It's a fun thing to be involved in.
Yeah.
Making sure that
this was fun. Thanks for having me.
Art. Yeah. Maybe we'll have you back when we. When 2027 comes around,
right?
And we gotta
That'd be cool.
Put out a full-out blast for the Duxbury show.
Yeah, well, that'll be like a 3-month show, so it'll run the same time as the Duxbury jury show too. So that's usually a really big show in the winter. So it's usually fun.
Awesome. I definitely would love to talk to you again and figure out how talk about what that process is like, getting that show set up and then trying to. Sell it to some other galleries or try to get, to make it into a mobile show.
Right. That'll be.
I'd be interested to hear about that.
I'll let you know how it goes. A whole new world.
Whether or not we record that or not, I'm definitely going to be wanting to hear about that. All right. Well, Jess Hurley Scott, check out your Instagram is?
Jess Hurley Scott Art.
Nice. And the website's the same?
Just jesshurleyscott.com.
Perfect.
Thanks so much, Dave.
My pleasure.
Okay.